The sun was barely up in London when 8-year-old Max and his mother arrived at Buckingham Palace. Max had waited for this day for months. He loved everything about the royal guards: their red coats, tall black hats, and the way they never smiled or moved. Max had seen them only in books and videos, but today he would see them for real. "Mum, will they really not move at all?" Max asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "That's right, love. They are trained to stand very still, no matter what," his mother replied. The pair joined the growing crowd near the palace gates. Max clutched his small toy guard that his grandfather had given him. The toy was special because Grandpa had been a royal guard many years ago. At exactly 11 o'clock, the changing of the guard ceremony began. Max watched with his mouth open as the guards marched with perfect steps. Their faces showed no feeling, just like he had heard. Each movement was exact, like they were all one person instead of many. But then something unexpected happened. Dark clouds rolled in, and rain began to fall. Not just a light rain, but a heavy downpour that sent tourists running for cover. Max and his mother had no umbrella. They tried to hide under a small tree, but they were getting very wet. Max held his toy guard close to his chest to keep it dry. Tears mixed with raindrops on his face. This special day was being ruined. One of the royal guards, a tall man named James Wilson, was standing at his post near the gates. He had been a guard for 5 years and was known for never breaking the rules. Guards were not supposed to move, talk, or show any feeling while on duty. These rules were very old and very strict. James saw the little boy crying under the tree. He noticed the toy guard in the boy's hands. Something about this reminded him of when he was a boy, visiting the palace with his own grandfather, who had also been a guard. James knew the rules. He knew he should stand still and look straight ahead. His training had taught him to ignore rain, snow, heat, and even people trying to make him laugh or move. But James also remembered something his grandfather had told him. A guard protects more than just a building. We protect what the crown stands for, including kindness. Making a quick choice that could get him in trouble, James stepped away from his post. In just 10 steps, he reached Max and his mother. From inside his uniform, he pulled out a small folding umbrella, not part of the official uniform, but something he kept for emergencies. Without saying a word, he handed the umbrella to Max's mother. Then he did something royal guards never do. He smiled at Max and gave him a small salute before turning to march back to his post. The crowd who had seen this stood in shocked silence. Then someone started to clap. Soon, everyone was clapping and cheering. Max's eyes were now wide with joy, not tears. "Mum, the guard moved for me," he said, jumping up and down. What James didn't know was that a tourist had recorded the whole thing on their phone. By evening, the video was all over the internet. People around the world were sharing the story of the royal guard who broke protocol to help a little boy. Back at the guard quarters that night, James was called to his commander's office. He knew he might be punished for breaking the rules. Guards had been disciplined for less. "Wilson," the commander said in a serious voice, "I've seen the video." James stood tall, ready to accept whatever punishment would come. The commander's serious face suddenly changed. A small smile appeared. "My grandson showed it to me. He said he wants to be just like you when he grows up. Not just a guard, but a kind one." Instead of punishment, James received a special note of thanks from the palace. Sometimes, the note said, showing the human side of tradition makes that tradition even stronger. For Max, it was a day he would never forget. And for James, it was a reminder that the greatest duty is not to rules, but to people. The story of James Wilson and little Max spread quickly. People all over the world watched the video of the royal guard who stepped away from his post to help a child. News shows talked about it. People shared it online. Some called James a hero for his small act of kindness. 2 weeks after the rainy day at the palace, James was back at his normal post. The weather was better now, warm and sunny. Tourists took pictures and tried to make him smile or move, but James stood still and straight, as guards must do. No one knew he was the same guard from the famous video. On this day, an old man walked slowly toward the palace gates. He used a cane and wore many medals on his jacket. The old man was Tom Harris, who had been a royal guard 50 years ago. Now 83 years old, Tom had come to see the palace one last time before moving to a care home. Tom stood looking at the guards, remembering his own days in the red coat and tall black hat. Back then, the rules had been even stricter. Guards could be punished just for blinking too much. As Tom watched, he began to feel very tired. The walk from the bus stop had taken all his strength. His legs began to shake. He tried to reach a bench, but it was too far. Suddenly, his cane slipped on the smooth ground. Tom started to fall. James saw it happening from his post. Without thinking twice, he broke rank again. In 3 quick steps, he reached Tom and caught him before he hit the ground. Another guard nearby saw what was happening and also broke position to help. "Thank you, son," Tom said, his voice shaking. "I was a guard too, once. Never thought I'd be helped by one." James helped Tom to the bench. He should have returned to his post right away. The rules were very clear, but instead, he took a moment to pour water from his hidden canteen into a cup for the old man. As Tom drank the water, he noticed James's name tag. His eyes opened wide in surprise. "Wilson? Are you related to George Wilson by any chance?" Tom asked. James couldn't speak while on duty, but his eyes showed surprise at hearing his grandfather's name. Tom smiled. "George Wilson was my best friend in the Guards. We served together for 10 years. Now James was truly shocked. His grandfather had often spoken of his friend Tom, but James had never met him. In that moment, a royal staff member came over. She had seen what happened and understood the situation. In a quiet voice, she told James she would stay with Tom, and that James should return to his post. James gave a small nod to Tom before marching back to position. The staff member sat with Tom and listened to his stories about his days as a guard. Later that day, when James finished his shift, he went to find Tom. The old man was still there, waiting. "Your grandfather saved me once too," Tom told James. "We were on duty during a terrible snowstorm. I got very sick from the cold, but we couldn't leave our posts. George stood closer to me, blocking the wind. He broke the rules to help me, just like you did today." James smiled. "Grandad never told me that story." "Some acts of kindness stay quiet," Tom said, "but they matter just as much." Before Tom left for his care home that day, he gave James something special, an old photo of Tom and George in their guard uniforms, standing tall outside the palace. That evening, the palace did something unusual. On their official social media account, they shared a picture of James and Tom sitting together. The caption read, "Today's guards honoring yesterday's guards. Some traditions never change, including compassion." The post got even more attention than the first video. People love seeing that behind the strict faces and perfect uniforms, the guards were real people with hearts and histories. For James, it was proof that sometimes the most important duty was kindness. After the stories about James Wilson spread, more people came to see the Royal Guards. Everyone hoped to spot James or witness another act of kindness. The palace had to add more staff just to handle the crowds. James became known as the Kind Guard, though he didn't like all the attention. He just wanted to do his job well. His commander understood this and moved James to a less public post at Windsor Castle, away from London's busy palace. At Windsor Castle, things were quieter. James enjoyed his new post, where fewer tourists tried to make him move or smile. One cold autumn morning, he stood guard at the east entrance. Few visitors came to this side of the castle, especially so early in the day. As James stood at his post, he noticed a small gray cat walking along the castle wall. The cat jumped down and walked right up to him, rubbing against his shiny black boots. James stayed still, as the rules required, but the cat meowed loudly and kept rubbing against his legs. Soon, James heard a small sound. Looking down without moving his head, he saw that the cat had a tiny kitten with her. The mother cat had brought her baby to him. The kitten looked weak and was shaking from the cold. James knew he should ignore them. Animals often came onto the castle grounds, and guards were trained not to react. But the kitten looked very sick. It might not live through the cold day without help. Once again, James had to choose between rules and kindness. And once again, kindness won. When no one was looking, he quickly picked up the kitten and placed it inside his large coat pocket where it would be warm. The mother cat seemed happy with this and sat down next to his feet. For 3 hours, James stood at his post with the kitten in his pocket. He could feel it warming up and moving around. When another guard came to replace him at the end of his shift, James carefully handed over his post, but kept his secret passenger. Back in the guard's quarters, James showed the kitten to his roommate, Peter, who was also a guard. "You broke protocol again," Peter asked, shaking his head. "You'll get in real trouble this time." "I couldn't let it die," James said, warming some milk for the tiny cat. Peter sighed but then smiled. "My sister works at an animal shelter. She can help." The next day, the story might have ended there, with the kitten going to the shelter. But something unexpected happened. The royal family was visiting Windsor Castle that day. The Queen's grandchildren were with her, including 6-year-old Princess Alice, who loved animals. While walking in the gardens with her family, Princess Alice spotted the mother cat, who was still hanging around the guards area. The cat ran up to James, who was back on duty. "Look, the cat knows you," Princess Alice said, breaking away from her group to run over to James. James stayed perfectly still, even as the Queen and her family approached. He was now in the presence of the royal family, where protocol was even more important. "Why does the cat like you so much?" Princess Alice asked him directly. Before James could think what to do, his pocket moved. The kitten had woken up and made a small noise. Princess Alice's eyes grew wide. "You have a kitten in your pocket," she gasped. The Queen raised her eyebrows. James knew he might lose his job now. Breaking protocol in front of the Queen herself was very serious. But then Princess Alice turned to her grandmother. "He's keeping it warm. He's saving its life." The Queen looked at James, then at the happy child, and then at the mother cat still rubbing against the guard's boots. "It seems," the Queen said with a small smile, "that our guards protect more than just our castles." Instead of being punished, James was asked to bring the kitten to the palace veterinarian. The royal family even decided to adopt the mother cat and her kitten, giving them a home at Windsor Castle. That evening, a new picture appeared on the royal family's social media. Princess Alice holding the kitten, with James in full guard uniform standing nearby. The caption read, "True guardianship extends to all of God's creatures, great and small." The story of James Wilson and the royal kittens made him even more famous. People now came to Windsor Castle hoping to see the kind guard and the cats that lived there. The palace gift shop even sold small toy guards holding kittens, which quickly became their best-selling item. James tried to keep doing his job normally, but things had changed. Other guards now looked up to him. Some even started to show small acts of kindness when they could do so without disrupting their duties too much. 3 months after the kitten rescue, a new guard joined the Windsor Castle team. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she was one of the first women to serve in this role. Some of the older guards were not friendly to her. They thought guarding the royal family should be only for men, as it had been for hundreds of years. Sarah worked hard and followed every rule perfectly. She never complained, even when others were unkind. James noticed how well she did her job and how tough she had to be. He tried to be friendly when they passed each other during shift changes. One very cold winter day, Sarah was assigned to guard the north gate. This was the worst post at Windsor Castle, far from any shelter, with cold winds blowing directly at the guard all day long. Most guards hated this post, but Sarah stood tall and still, her face showing no emotion. What no one knew was that Sarah had been sick with a bad cold for 3 days. She hadn't told anyone because she didn't want to seem weak. As the icy wind hit her face hour after hour, she felt worse and worse. Her head hurt terribly, and she felt very hot despite the cold weather. James was off duty that day, but came to the castle to pick up his schedule for the next week. As he walked past the north gate, he noticed Sarah swaying slightly at her post. Her face looked very red, and her eyes weren't focusing properly. James knew these signs well. They were the same signs guards showed right before fainting. Without hesitation, James ran to Sarah's side, just in time to catch her as she fell. Her skin burned with fever as James carefully lowered her to the ground. He called for help on his radio, and 2 other guards came running. "She's very sick," James told them. "She needs a doctor right away." One of the older guards, Robert, who had been unkind to Sarah, looked down at her with worry on his face. "She never said she was sick," he said. "Would you have said anything?" James asked him directly. Robert looked ashamed and shook his head. Then he did something unexpected. He took off his heavy wool coat and placed it over Sarah to keep her warm while they waited for medical help. The castle doctor arrived quickly and had Sarah taken to the medical room. She had a very high fever and needed immediate care. Later, they learned she had been standing at her post with a fever of 104 degrees, dangerous enough to have caused serious harm. That evening, James went to check on Sarah in the castle medical room. She was awake but still very weak. "Thank you," she said quietly. "They told me what you did." James smiled. Any guard would have done the same. Sarah shook her head. "No, they wouldn't have. Not before you changed things." For the next week, something remarkable happened. The guards took turns visiting Sarah, bringing her soup, books, and cards. Even Robert came by with flowers and an apology for how he had treated her. When Sarah returned to duty 2 weeks later, she found things had changed. The other guards now treated her with respect. They had seen her strength in standing at her post while so sick, and they had learned something important from James, that looking after each other made them all stronger, not weaker. The commander noticed this change too. At the next staff meeting, he announced a new policy. Guards would now work in pairs during extreme weather, taking turns to warm up inside. It was a small change to protocol, but an important one. "We protect the crown," the commander said, "but we also protect each other." Spring came to Windsor Castle, bringing warm sunshine and many tourists. The guards now worked in pairs during bad weather, thanks to the new rules. Sarah Chen had fully recovered and become friends with many of the guards, including Robert, who had changed his old ways of thinking. James Wilson was still known as the kind guard, though many others now showed kindness too. The royal family's cats often visited the guards, especially James. The mother cat would sit near his post for hours, as if standing guard with him. One bright Tuesday morning, a school bus stopped outside Windsor Castle. 30 children from Oakwood School stepped out, all wearing matching blue uniforms. These were special children who had learning difficulties or physical challenges. Many used wheelchairs or walking aids. Their teachers had brought them to see the castle as a special treat. The children lined up to watch the changing of the guard ceremony. Some of them got very excited and made loud noises. A few visitors looked annoyed, but the guards kept their serious faces and did not react. One boy named Danny couldn't stay in line with the others. He had autism and found it hard to be in crowded places. He began to rock back and forth, covering his ears as the guards' band played loudly. "Too loud, too loud," Danny cried, getting more upset. His teacher tried to calm him, but Danny broke away and ran toward the guards. Everyone watched nervously. Would the guards stay still as they were supposed to? Would Danny get in trouble? Sarah was on duty that day. She saw Danny running toward her, his hands still over his ears, his face red with distress. Without breaking her position, Sarah did something small but important. She winked at Danny. That simple act, just a quick closing of one eye, surprised Danny so much that he stopped running. He stared at Sarah with wide eyes. "You winked," he said, his voice full of wonder. "Guards aren't supposed to move." Sarah kept her face serious but gave another tiny wink. Danny's upset face changed to a smile. Then Sarah did something even more surprising. She reached slowly into her pocket and pulled out a small pair of earplugs. She held them out to Danny. "For the noise," she said quietly, breaking protocol by speaking. "I keep them for when the cannons fire." Danny took the earplugs and put them in. His whole body relaxed as the loud sounds became softer. He looked up at Sarah with a big smile. "Thank you, guard lady," he said. Danny's teacher came running up, ready to apologize, but stopped when she saw Danny standing calmly next to Sarah. "He's fine," Sarah told the teacher. "We understand each other." The ceremony continued, and Danny stayed near Sarah's post, watching with new interest now that the noise didn't hurt his ears. When it was time for the school group to leave, Danny didn't want to go. "Can I be a guard when I grow up?" he asked Sarah. Sarah looked at Danny seriously. "The most important part of being a guard is being brave and kind," she said. "You already are those things." Danny stood very straight and tried to make a serious guard face. Sarah showed him how to stand properly and gave a small salute, which Danny copied perfectly. As the school bus drove away, Danny waved from the window. Sarah broke protocol one last time to wave back. That afternoon, James found Sarah during their break. "I saw what you did," he said with a smile. "The commander wants to see you." Sarah felt worried. Had she gone too far by speaking to Danny and giving him the earplugs? But when she went to the commander's office, he wasn't angry. Instead, he had a special letter. It was from the Queen herself. Her Majesty was watching from her window, the commander said. She saw everything with the boy. The letter thanked Sarah for showing that the guards could keep their dignity while still showing humanity. The Queen had ordered something new. Small earplugs would now be available at all guard posts for visitors who needed them, especially children with sensory issues. "Protocol matters," the commander told Sarah, "but so do people." Word about the Royal Guard's kindness spread far beyond England. People from other countries began to share their own stories online. Soon, the guards at Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace received letters from all over the world. Children sent drawings of guards helping people and animals. The commander created a special wall in the guards' dining hall where they hung these letters and pictures. James, Sarah, and the other guards often stopped to look at them during their breaks. Summer came, bringing heat and even more tourists. One very hot day in July, a large group from Japan visited Windsor Castle. Among them was an elderly man named Mr. Tanaka. At 92 years old, he had saved money his whole life to visit England. His greatest wish was to see the guards in their famous red coats and tall black hats. Mr. Tanaka walked slowly with a cane. The heat made him very tired, but he was determined to see everything. His grandson Akito stayed close by his side, worried about his grandfather in the hot weather. Robert was on duty that day at the east entrance. He noticed the old man moving slowly through the crowd, looking up at the guards with clear admiration in his eyes. Mr. Tanaka stopped often to rest, wiping sweat from his face. The temperature was over 90 degrees, and even the guards, trained to stand still in all weather, were struggling in their heavy uniforms. As Mr. Tanaka got closer to Robert's post, the old man suddenly put his hand to his chest. His face turned very pale. Akito grabbed his grandfather's arm, calling for help in broken English. "Please, my grandfather. Heart problem." Robert faced a difficult choice. The nearest medical help was inside the castle, but visitors were not allowed through his gate without special permission. Protocol said he should call for help and wait, but he could see that Mr. Tanaka needed help right away. Like James and Sarah before him, Robert chose kindness over rules. He stepped away from his post and helped Aikido support Mr. Tanaka. "This way," Robert said, opening the gate that was normally closed to the public. "Medical room is close." Together, they helped Mr. Tanaka into the cool hallway of the castle. Another guard saw what was happening and ran to get the castle doctor. Soon, Mr. Tanaka was resting in the medical room, an oxygen mask helping him breathe more easily. The doctor explained that the heat and excitement had been too much for Mr. Tanaka's heart. "If you had waited outside for help," the doctor told Aikido, "your grandfather might have been in serious danger." Aikido bowed deeply to Robert. "You saved my grandfather. How can we thank you?" Robert felt embarrassed. "Just doing my duty," he said. When Mr. Tanaka felt better, he wanted to thank Robert personally. The doctor said he should rest for a few hours before traveling back to his hotel. This created another problem. Visitors were not allowed to stay in the castle medical room for extended periods. But when the Queen heard about what happened, she did something unexpected. She invited Mr. Tanaka and Aikido to rest in one of the castle's guest rooms, normally used only for official visitors. Even more surprising, she arranged for Robert to give them a special tour once Mr. Tanaka felt strong enough to walk again. Areas that were usually closed to tourists were open just for them. Mr. Tanaka was moved to tears by this kindness. In Japan, he told Robert through Aikido's translation, "We have a saying, the true strength of a warrior is shown in gentleness." That evening, Robert shared this saying with the other guards during dinner. James smiled when he heard it. "That's exactly what we've been learning," James said. Sarah nodded in agreement. Being strong doesn't mean being hard or cold. Real strength includes kindness. The commander, who was passing by, stopped to listen. "Write that down," he said. "I want those words on our wall of letters." From that day on, Mr. Tanaka's Japanese saying was displayed prominently in the guards' hall. The true strength of a warrior is shown in gentleness. And in their daily duties, the guards found new ways to live by these words. Autumn came to Windsor Castle, painting the trees in red and gold. The days grew shorter, and fewer tourists visited as the weather turned cold. For the royal guards, this meant quieter shifts but longer, darker hours standing at their posts. One foggy November morning, a special event was happening at the castle. A group of veterans would attend a ceremony to honor those who had served in wars. Many of these old soldiers had fought alongside the royal family members in World War II and other conflicts. James, Sarah, and Robert were all assigned to this event. They stood extra tall and proud as the veterans arrived. Some of the old soldiers walked slowly with canes, while others used wheelchairs. All wore their medals on their chests. Among them was a 95-year-old man named William Foster. He had been a royal guard himself before fighting in World War II. Now he returned to the castle for the first time in over 70 years. William looked at the current guards with tears in his eyes. "Just the same as in my day," he said to his daughter who walked beside him. "Except we didn't have women guards back then. Good change, that." As William watched the ceremony, cold rain began to fall. Most people moved under cover, but William stayed where he was. He wanted to see everything. His daughter tried to convince him to go inside, but he refused. "I stood in the rain for hours as a guard," he said. "I can stand in it now to honor my friends." Sarah was positioned near William. She noticed the old man shivering in the rain but refusing to leave. Without making it obvious, she shifted her position slightly, moving closer to William so that her shelter was partly above him. The rain fell harder. Sarah saw that William was getting very wet despite her efforts. His thin jacket was soaked through, and he was shaking with cold. She knew this could be dangerous for someone his age. Sarah looked around. No superior officers were watching. The Queen had not yet arrived. Making a quick decision, Sarah did something no guard had ever done before during an official ceremony. She took off her heavy red guard's coat and placed it gently around William's shoulders. Standing in just her white shirt in the cold rain, Sarah resumed her post. Without her red coat, she was breaking one of the most important rules of the Royal Guards. No guard should ever remove any part of their uniform while on duty. William looked up in surprise at the sudden warmth around his shoulders. When he realized what Sarah had done, he started to protest. "You'll get in trouble, lass," he said. Sarah kept her eyes forward, her face serious. "You kept our country safe, sir," she said quietly. "Now it's my turn to keep you safe." Other veterans noticed what had happened. One by one, they stood up straighter, showing respect for both William and Sarah. Even in the cold rain, a warm feeling spread through the crowd. Then something unexpected happened. The royal cars arrived, and the Queen stepped out under an umbrella. Her eyes immediately noticed the guard standing without her coat and the old veteran wearing it. Everyone held their breath. Would Sarah be punished for breaking such an important rule? The Queen walked directly to where William and Sarah stood. The crowd went completely silent. "Excuse me," the Queen said to William. "I believe you were a royal guard once." William tried to stand even straighter. "Yes, Your Majesty. 1943 to 1945. The Queen nodded. "And I see our current guards are still looking after you." William began to remove the coat. "I told her she shouldn't have, Your Majesty. I don't want her to get in trouble." The Queen raised her hand to stop him. "Keep it for now," she said. Then she turned to Sarah. "Guard Chen, isn't it?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Sarah answered, rain dripping from her face. What the Queen did next would be talked about for years. She removed her own shawl and handed it to her assistant. Then she took off her jacket and placed it around Sarah's shoulders. "If you can share your warmth," the Queen said, loud enough for others to hear, "then so can I." A cheer broke out among the veterans. Even some of the other guards smiled, breaking protocol for just a moment. In that cold, rainy ceremony, the distance between Queen and guard, between past and present, seemed to disappear. The story of the Queen giving her jacket to Sarah made news around the world. People shared pictures of the moment everywhere. The royal family even posted the photo on their official social media, with the words, "Tradition and compassion work together." As Christmas approached, Windsor Castle was decorated with lights and garlands. The guards continued their duties in the cold winter weather. Their red coats and tall black hats stood out against the white snow that covered the castle grounds. During this busy time, the guards got a special assignment. A children's hospital in London had written to the palace with an unusual request. They had a 10-year-old patient named Lily who loved the royal guards. Lily had a serious heart condition and couldn't leave the hospital to see the guards in person. Her biggest wish was to have real guards visit her. The commander called a meeting to ask for volunteers. Every single guard raised their hand. James, Sarah, and Robert were chosen to go, along with 2 others. They would visit the hospital on Christmas Eve. When the 5 guards arrived at the children's hospital in their full uniforms, everyone stopped to stare. Doctors, nurses, patients, and visitors watched in amazement as the famous red coats and tall black hats moved through the hallways. The guards went first to a small party in the main playroom, where many children were waiting. Some children were in wheelchairs, others had IVs attached to their arms, but all had big smiles when they saw the guards. For 1 hour, the guards broke all the rules of being serious and still. They played games, took photos, and even danced with the children. After the party, the guards went to visit Lily in her private room. She was too sick to join the main celebration. When they walked in, Lily's tired face lit up with joy. Her room was decorated with pictures of royal guards she had drawn herself. "Real guards," she whispered, too weak to shout. "In my room." The guards lined up at the foot of her bed and performed a special mini-changing of the guard ceremony just for her. Lily watched with wide eyes as they marched and turned with perfect steps in the small space. James stepped forward. "We heard you're a fan of the royal guards," he said. Lily nodded, her eyes bright despite her pale face. "I want to be one when I grow up," she said, "but the doctors say my heart might not be strong enough." The guards looked at each other. Robert stepped forward next. "Being a guard isn't just about standing for hours or marching in the cold," he said. "It's about having a strong heart in here." He pointed to his chest, but then to his head. "And here." Finally, he pointed to Lily's heart monitor. "And that machine shows you have the strongest heart in London." Lily smiled, but then she looked sad again. "I might have to have another operation soon. I'm scared." Sarah moved closer to Lily's bed. "Can I tell you a secret?" she asked. "Guards get scared too. Being brave doesn't mean never feeling afraid. It means doing what you need to do even when you're scared." "Really?" Lily asked. "Even you get scared?" "Even us," Sarah confirmed. "But we stand tall anyway, just like you're doing." Before leaving, the guards gave Lily a special gift, a small silver pin in the shape of a Royal Guards hat. It was normally given only to guards who had served for 10 years. "You're an honorary Royal Guard now," James told her, "the bravest one of all." As they were about to leave, Lily asked them to wait. With her nurse's help, she sat up straight in her bed and gave them a perfect salute, just like she had seen in pictures. The 5 guards stood in a line and saluted back with full ceremony. Many of the hospital staff watching had tears in their eyes. It was the first time Royal Guards had ever officially saluted a child. That night, the guards returned to Windsor Castle for their regular duties. But something had changed. They had gone to the hospital thinking they would bring joy to a sick child. Instead, Lily had reminded them of something important, that courage comes in many forms, and some of the bravest hearts beat in the smallest bodies. 1 year had passed since James Wilson first broke protocol to help little Max in the rain. So much had changed since then. The Royal Guards were still famous for their perfect discipline and serious faces, but now they were also known for their kindness. On a bright spring day, a special ceremony was happening at Buckingham Palace. For the first time ever, the palace was giving awards to guards who had shown exceptional kindness while doing their duties. The Queen herself would present these awards. James, Sarah, Robert, and many other guards stood in perfect lines in the palace courtyard. They wore their finest uniforms with every button polished. Their families sat in chairs nearby, watching proudly. Among the special guests were many people whose lives had been touched by the guards' kindness. Max and his mother, old Tom Harris, William Foster wearing his war medals, Mr. Tanaka who had flown all the way from Japan with his grandson, and many others. One seat remained empty in the front row, reserved with a small teddy bear wearing a guard's hat. This was for Lily from the Children's Hospital. The guards had stayed in touch with her, visiting whenever they could. After her last operation, she had started to get better. The doctors now said she might fully recover one day. The ceremony began with the guards' band playing music. Then the palace doors opened, and everyone stood as the Queen walked out. But she was not alone. Walking slowly beside her, holding her hand, was a small, thin girl wearing a special child-sized guard uniform. It was Lily. The crowd gasped, then broke into applause. The guards remained perfectly still, but many had tears in their eyes. None of them had known Lily would be well enough to attend. The Queen led Lily to her seat, then stepped to the microphone. 1 year ago, the Queen said, a guard made a choice to help a child in the rain. Since then, we have seen many acts of kindness from our guards. Today we honor not just their duty, but their humanity. One by one, guards stepped forward to receive their awards. James for helping Max and the kitten, Sarah for helping the boy with autism, and William Foster, Robert for assisting Mr. Tanaka, and many others for acts of kindness both small and large. When all the awards had been given, the Queen had one more surprise. "We have created a new position," she announced, Chief Guard of Kindness. "This guard will help us make sure that compassion is always part of our tradition." The Queen looked around at all the guards. Who would she choose? Everyone expected it would be James, since he had started it all. For this role, the Queen continued, we need someone who truly understands courage in all its forms, someone who reminds us why we serve. To everyone's surprise, the Queen turned to Lily. Our honorary guard, Lily Thompson, will work with the guards whenever her health allows. She will help us remember that true strength includes kindness. Lily's eyes grew wide. She had not known about this. The Queen placed a special pin on Lily's small uniform, a guard's hat with a heart in the center. James stepped forward and saluted Lily. Then Sarah did the same. Soon, every guard was saluting the small girl who had shown so much courage. Lily stood as straight as she could and saluted back, just as they had taught her in the hospital. That evening, as the guards returned to their posts, things looked the same as they always had. The red coats and tall black hats still stood perfectly still. The serious faces still looked straight ahead. Tourists still tried to make them smile. But something important had changed. The guards now understood that their duty to protect went beyond buildings and rules. True protection included kindness to those in need. A new sign hung in the guards' headquarters, written in both English and Japanese. The true strength of a warrior is shown in gentleness. From his post at the palace gate, James could see Max and his mother walking home after the ceremony. Max was wearing a toy guard's hat and standing very straight. James kept his face serious, but inside he was smiling. Sometimes the most important traditions are the new ones we create, and sometimes the greatest acts of duty are small moments of kindness.